What's up everybody, it's Charlie. If you're new to this channel, I would highly recommend going and checking out my last two videos in this series. But to catch you up to speed, I am a post-collegiate runner who is now living in Oregon and working as a full-time engineer. And I'm currently 5 weeks out from a sub 220 marathon attempt at the California International Marathon. This past weekend, I flew out to Kansas City to spend the week with my girlfriend, Sydney. She's a very accomplished runner, and she is actually also going to be running CIM with me in December, so super excited to be doing that with her. This upcoming weekend, we are both going to be racing the St. Louis Half Marathon as a tune-up race, and I'm hoping to put out one or two really cool videos from that, so stay tuned. Should be a really fun race and fun weekend, and I'm looking forward to sharing that with you guys. This week, I wanted to take a step back and talk a little bit about one of the most important aspects of training, and that is recovery. Specifically, I wanted to give some tips for people like me who are busy runners with lots of obligations outside of running on how to maximize your recovery without insane schedule flexibility. So if there is one thing that I want you to take away from this video, it is that you should always eat before you run. And I mean close to when you run. I know sometimes it feels easiest just to roll out of bed and get running on an empty stomach, but I promise you, taking the extra time to wake up and get some food and water in your system makes a huge difference over the course of a run. Think about it this way. If you eat dinner 2 to 3 hours before you go to bed and then aim for getting roughly 8 hours of sleep, that's a 10 to 11 hour window where you haven't eaten anything between when your last meal was and when you're starting your run. You're pretty much already starting that run somewhat depleted, and if you're not depleted, you're probably gonna get there before you finish your run. Going on that morning run without anything in your system is gonna make it a lot more taxing on your body, especially in those later miles if you're somebody who's running 45, 60, even upwards of 80 or 90 minutes in the morning. Now, I'm not saying that you need to get up, an hour before every single morning run and eat a full meal. You just need to get some form of carbs and hydration into your system. So my go-to is to wake up 30 to 40 minutes before I start running, and I down a Pop-Tart and a glass of water. Pop-Tarts are great. I think I've talked about them on here before. Really quick, simple sugar and carbs. That is gonna be exactly what you need to get you through a run. I promise you, if you are not getting some carbs into your system before you get out the door, start doing it now. It's gonna make a huge difference. My second piece of advice is gonna be to take a little bit of time every night to prime your body for the next day of training, especially, again, if you're somebody like me who runs before going to work early. If you're in a time crunch, here's what I would suggest to set your body up really well in only about 15 minutes. So first step is gonna be to take a hot shower or bath to warm your muscles up. It's always more effective to stretch and roll with warm muscles. And not only is it more effective, it's actually safer. If you're going to try to do a deep stretch and your muscles are cold, that's when tears or something like that can happen, and nobody wants to get injured. Right when you get out of that hot shower or bath, I'm gonna suggest stretching at the bare minimum your hamstrings, your calves, your quads, and your glutes. And you can do all of that very effectively in only about 5 minutes. I just say focus on those 4 muscle groups because I know everybody doesn't have the time to do a fully exhaustive full body stretching routine. But if you can just get a basic hamstring stretch and quad stretch in with warm muscles, you're gonna feel deep opening pretty quickly, even if you just hold for 30 to 60 seconds. And I wouldn't recommend holding too much longer than that. So from there, if you've got a foam roller, I would spend another 5 minutes or so rolling out, again, those larger muscles like your quads and your calves. And that's about it. So you can take these 10 to 15 minutes, just bang out this quick sequence of stretching and rolling, and I promise you your body's gonna feel a lot better the next day than if you hadn't done any of this at all. My third tip is gonna be to fuel during your longer runs. So when I was in college, I used to do 15 to 18 mile long runs every weekend without bringing any fuel with me. And I used to always notice that those last 2 or 3 miles of those runs, I felt like I hit a wall. And I was always under the impression that it was just, a natural part of doing longer runs, and that's what happens when you're up at longer distances. But then I started bringing fuel with me on my runs, and I realized it's actually just your body getting depleted and literally running out of energy. And running in that depleted zone, even if it's for 2 or 3 miles at the end of those runs, that's what's really gonna wreck your legs and make you have a hard time recovering over the next few days. So if you can avoid that, it's gonna help you a ton. I'm somebody who likes to bring gels and carb drink mix with me on my long runs, but I know that stuff can be kind of expensive. So if you want a cheap alternative, I would suggest just going to your local grocery store and getting a box of store brand fruit snacks. Really quick, easy carbs and sugar. Put 3 or 4 packs in your pocket. The golden standard is to aim for getting in 60 grams of carbs per hour, evenly spaced throughout your long run. But even if you're just gonna grab 3 or 4 packs of fruit snacks, it's gonna make a big difference. My 4th tip is actually gonna be to work in some light strength work and or biomechanics work. Now, I know that may seem a little bit counterintuitive because we're talking about recovery, and inevitably this is stuff that is gonna make you sore, especially if you haven't been doing it. But I believe that taking the initiative to strengthen the muscles, especially in your lower legs, in the long term really helps with your recovery. To gear this towards people with busy weeks, I'm gonna suggest working in a 15-ish minute biomechanics routine through 2 or 3 times a week. Even that will make a big difference. So I've put a workout in the description that I have used before for a couple months at the beginning of the summer. It worked super well for me. And I've also put a reputable source where those exercises come from. If you are a stronger and more efficient runner, your body's gonna take less impact through repeated mileage and volume. So doing your daily training is gonna have a lesser effect on your body, and you're gonna be able to recover quicker if you're stronger. So my 5th and final tip of today is gonna be, of course, to focus on sleep. Now, I know getting more sleep isn't necessarily always a possibility for everybody. For example, I wake up at about 4:30 to run before work, and if I'm trying to get 8 hours of sleep, that means I have to be asleep by 8:30 p.m. And as much as I try to do that and often will aim and hit that goal, it's not always possible because some days, especially on days when I have second sessions after work, I won't get home until close to 6:30 or so, and that leaves me 2 hours to, make dinner, eat dinner, and do anything else around the house and get tired and fall asleep. So I understand that's not always realistic. So my biggest advice here for you, if you're a busy person, is to, at the very least, focus on sleeping consistently. And what I mean by that is have a rough time where you're gonna aim to go to bed and try to stick to it as much as you can, knowing that you're not always necessarily gonna hit that mark on the head. If your body's used to falling asleep at roughly the same time and waking up at roughly the same time, you're gonna have a much easier time getting out of bed to run in the morning and getting ready for work or school or whatever you need to get ready for. By all means, the more sleep, the better. If you're somebody who can afford to aim for 8 plus 9 hours of sleep, that's amazing. I try to do so on weeks when I can, but I know that's not always possible. And also, if you are able to get on a consistent sleep schedule, it's not gonna screw you over when you have a day or two here and there where you deviate from that schedule. So for example, you've got an event to go to on like a Friday or Saturday night and you're gonna be out late, you're not gonna be screwed over by one night of that, even if you're in really intense training for an upcoming marathon or upcoming race of whatever distance you want. I know this list is nowhere near as exhaustive as it could be in terms of recovery tips, and I honestly don't even know if what I've said is super obvious or not obvious at all, or helpful or not helpful. I'm gonna do my best to be pretty engaged with any comments on this video, so if you guys wanna know anything specific or more details about anything I've said, questions about other things, let me know in the comments. I'll do my best to give good replies there. Like I said earlier in this video, I've got a half marathon race coming up this weekend with Sydney, so her and I are gonna try to put together at least one good video for that, so stay on the lookout. I'm very excited about it, and as always, thank you everybody for watching. I really appreciate all the recent support, and I hope this video is useful. Peace.